So today we're going to focus on the impressive technology of these new combines and the variability of a field like this. So if you look down on that bottom, there's probably 60, 70 bushel barley in the bottom and more like 15 up here. On the top, this is one of my favorite fields because of the geography out here. So there's an old riverbed that runs through here that's pretty crappy ground, lots of cactus. Down in this bottom where you see that better stuff, this obviously was an old lake bed or a reservoir type bed, and the sediment sits way down in the bottom down there. We're looking at 4+% organic matter in the bottom of that field. And this is where we've only got about 1.5 inches of rain. But what I'm really getting at here is what this combine, which is coming here, is capable of doing. So this thing is sensing the flow coming into the machine, the amount of cracked grain that's in there, the amount of material other than grain, and then how much loss is happening out of not only the rotor but off the sieves in the back. And it's going to adjust this thing on the go, which I'm going to show you in a video here pretty quick like. So it'll adjust the speed of the combine, the concaves, the rotor speed, and all of that on the go. And these variable fields is where this thing really shines. So I'm going to get you guys into the combine here in a second. Even on these elevation gains and changes as we go down these hills, that thing is sensing the tilt of the combine and how much of a hill it actually is creeping down, and it's adjusting those sieves to level them all the time and everything too. So compared to the old combines, the technology anymore is mind-blowing, and in variability like we have on this farm, it really, I think, over time pays for itself. Here comes Wendy on the combine. She's going to let me hop up in the cab with her just for a few minutes, and we'll take a look at how this automation stuff actually works from inside the cab. So here I am with Wendy. She's a combine operator extraordinaire. She spends a lot of time in the cab anyways, and I was going to just show you kind of all the cool stuff this automation will do from the screen vantage point too. And without the operator giving it input on the parameters and stuff, it certainly doesn't work as well as if you just hopped in here and let it do its thing. But Wendy's got this tuned up really well. We're coming down this hill where we're going to get into the better grain, and we'll show you kind of how the screen adjusts. We'll open the sieves up, I think, and slow this down when it gets into the better barley, and just basically just deal with all the variation in this field really well. Okay, so here we are, we're rolling into the bottom. We're at a 20-some bushels an acre right now, and it's going to get quite a bit better, I think, as we roll into this bottom of this stuff. Those funnels on the screen are showing us the rotor loss, the cracked grain, the tailings that are going back through the combine, the log, which is material other than grain, like junk that's in the grain that shouldn't be. And then we have the sieve loss, which is blowing it out the back of the combine, and then the pressure differences on the sieves. And you're going to see as we get into this bottom and the yield starts ramping up, those numbers will start changing for the sieves and the pre-sieve. These funnels will start to fill up as the losses get higher or the MOG gets higher. And it's slowing us down right now to give itself time to kind of compensate for all these things. So you can see we're into quite a bit better grain here. Now we've ramped up to at about 40 bushels an acre.
Turned up the fan.
It turned the fan up to deal with the more grain that was coming in there. And pretty quick, like, I think it'll start adjusting some of the other settings on here. So you can see now we're at 60-some bushels an acre in this bottom when we were coming off of 15. It's actually dealing with this really well just with the speed, basically. So it slowed itself down to give itself time, basically, to process this stuff as it's coming in there. Because the bulk of this field is set to handle 15 bushels, and right now it's having to handle a considerably better crop. So as it's adjusted the fan, it's got the sieves kind of set where it wants it set at. Now it's starting to speed itself up, and it's pushing more material through here because it can handle it. So, and as we get out into where it's lighter, it's going to slow the fan down, probably close the sieves up some, and take back off to the normal settings. So you can see here the quality of the grain coming in the tank and how it's consistent all over on the window, how it dealt with that change in velocity of grain really well, and actually now it's sped itself back up to what Wendy, I think, has set her maximum speed at 5 miles an hour. And how Millie down here really does not care about any of this.
Ready?
Well, what do you think of all of this, Wen? What's the most frustrating part of this?
I think the hardest thing to switch your brain over to is these cones down here are supposed to run full and blip into the yellow every once in a while. That way you're right on the edge of where you should be of filling the machine, getting the best grain quality, but also running at kind of peak performance, and it allows the automation to work. When in the older combine that we had, you always kind of wanted those to be green, and you're always concerned if they ever blip to yellow or red. But the way this machine is meant to be run is cones full, blipping into yellow, and that's just hard to mentally get used to. It's pretty sweet.
Well, thank you, Wendy May, for helping do this, even though you hate these videos, I'm sure. And the last amazing thing I was going to show you was this climate field view stuff up here. So on this iPad, it's constantly logging the yield out of this monitor. If we were spraying at the same time, it'd also be logging the sprayer wherever it's at, and it's uploading all that through the cell towers onto my phone, which I'll show you here at the end. So just amazing, the technology anymore and the access to data that we have compared to what we had just a few years ago.